He'll move it. He moved it for me. Oh wait, he won't move it for you. I see you have glitter hair.
I have.
And he did notice. See.
Your son is winning his soccer game too.
He's winning his soccer game?
But he's not in goal.
The same team that lost 7-0 last week?
Yes. That would be me.
All right.
3-1.
So you said there are two more. You're planning two more in the compendium, kind of the compendium part of the Honorverse.
Yeah.
Are they going to each have their own novella in them as well?
That's the idea. And the problem is that I wasted the novella I planned to put into one of them doing a short story for Brian Schmidt, which will be appearing.
You didn't waste it?
Well, no, but it'll be appearing in an anthology sometime fairly soon. I can't remember what the release date is. And it is how Eloise Pritchard becomes a revolutionary.
He liked the story too. He's like,
Yeah.
let me tell you what I did today. Can we have dinner first? No, I gotta tell you.
It also tells you where her relationship with Kevin Usher came from. So
you can honestly say that you're ushering in a new era.
No.
I should have.
I tried.
Take a gun.
Lean back, David. Come here, Judy.
No.
Judy, can I hurt him?
Yeah, he is a trying person, so go for it.
The blood splatter is always hard to get out when you do something like that, dear.
Well, that's why I've got the brand new black sheet behind me.
But yeah, I'm not sure what story will go into House of Lies, which will be the one which will focus on, among other things, the Republic of Haven. If you're reading the Manticore Ascendant novels with Tim Zahn and Tom Pope and me, you're seeing the Republic of Haven where it began, where it was. And I hope that, because I never intended the Republic of Haven to be the People's Republic of Haven to be a monolithic, it's always been this way. It was created by the evil overlord because David needed a villain, kind of thing. It's to me, one of the things that we lose track of in real life, and definitely lose track of in fiction, is that history is an ongoing process. That what we see right this minute, or even in a 2-year, 3-year period, is essentially a snapshot, one frame from this ongoing movie that started back with Ook the Caveman and is still going, okay? And that's one of the things that I tried to deal with in my fiction. I think you could see it as a recurrent theme in almost everything that I've written series-wise, is this evolution of history, of societies, of who's in charge, of the technologies involved and so forth. It's always moving.
Well, and I mean, you show the evolution of people's personalities as well.
I tried to, yeah.
I mean, one of the things I've always found that I've really enjoyed about your universes is you have compelling people. You have people that, whether you like them or hate them, you are impressed by them because they have both faults and things to admire. I mean, St. Just, for instance, I mean, he's a despicable character, but his reasons for doing what he does kind of makes sense if you're twisted.
Well, actually, thank you.
I tried.
Well, if you've watched Person of Interest, okay, all right. Saint-Just is basically Shaw on steroids.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Because he will do whatever needs to be done, and he does not care what the cost to someone else is, as long as he. I don't see him saying, I had some good people once, they taught me better. Yeah, those people wouldn't want me to kill you. Yes, but they're not here now. They're all dead. Bam! Okay? Saint-Just is not going to have that kind of soliloquy, yeah, well, the people I find hardest to write are villains. And one of the reasons I find villains hard to write is there has to be a reason for what they do that is villainous. Okay? And coming up with a reason other than, well, I needed a bad guy, can sometimes be difficult. You have to do just as much backstory on the villain as you do on the good guy, or it's not going to work. And in doing the backstory of the villain, you sometimes set the stage to turn the villain into the not villain before you're all done.
The redemption cycle.
Yeah, okay, if you go back to Insurrection, the very first novel that Steve White and I sold, you're looking at Oscar Dieter, who is the flashpoint that causes the war. He creates the pretext that's used to create this civil war in the Federation. And he realizes it. And he decides it's his job to do something about it, even if it destroys him in the process. So yeah, he's a villain in the beginning, he's a cynical machine politician, you know, he's you know, all this stuff. He's doing drugs the night that he, you know, issues the insult that leads to, you know, the whole 9 yards. But the process forces him to face who he is and what he is. And he doesn't like what he sees in the mirror. And in the end, he accomplishes his mission, okay? I think that that's an important aspect of human nature, is that it is possible for that to happen. Now, there are people out there who it's never going to happen with. Okay, Jaspar Clifton in the Safehold books comes to mind. But look at the other members of the group of four in that book. I mean, one of them, the guy who was the mastermind, winds up a non-entity pretty much in terms of where they're going. And the guy who I think is actually the most interesting in many ways of the group of four is the Captain General, who is the stooge for Jaspar in the beginning, but who grows as the books go on, and as he's in this position of responsibility for this massive war that millions of people are being killed in. He's like, this can't be right, and what are we going to do about it? So yeah, that's an important thread to me. The good guys, more or less, are going to stay good guys. Okay, they're going to grow in experience. They may change in attitude. They may decide they can't stand good guy number B, you know, kind of thing. But they're basically going to remain characters that the reader approves of. Okay.
I'd say Merlin's an interesting example of one that has a lot of...
He's got issues.
Yeah.
Yes, she does.
Yeah, especially when Nimue comes along, you know, but Merlin's kind of decided he's going to stay Merlin, okay, and Nimue's going to be Nimue. And how many of you have read At the Sign of Triumph yet?
Okay, is there anybody in here that has not read At the Sign of Triumph?
Okay, well.
Spoiler alerts for
No, I'm stopping there.
Okay. If you haven't read the Safehold series, I highly recommend it. I'll be honest, I started with the Honor Harrington universe. That was where I kind of cut my teeth on David's books. But the Safehold series has actually, I think, grown a little above the Honorverse for me as my favorite universe.
Well, it depends on what you're looking at. Okay, Safehold has given me an opportunity with I won't say a smaller cast, but a smaller canvas, because it's one planet to deal with, which means...
It's still a cast of thousands, though.
Nah, only several hundred. But with 4 or 5 billion extras. But anyway, the geographically, it's small enough that I can actually deal with the different nation states and whatnot on it at a level that you really can't in something on the scale of the Honorverse. And it's also much more explicitly about a battle for freedom of conscience. Okay. Now, you know, truth in advertising, I'm a Methodist lay speaker. Okay, so I have my own motivations for wanting to do a book which looks at the Reformation on another planet in a different format. But I think that the fundamental battle on this planet, you look at it, it's like, okay, we have to get to the truth so that we can be ready when we run into the Gababa again, you know, et cetera. So on that level, it's space opera in the sense of, okay, here's the overwhelming menace that we have to deal with, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But that's almost secondary for the characters on the planet. It's there in the back of their mind. It's the thing they have to do. They have to get done. But what's in the forefront of their mind the whole time they're doing this is that this is a war between people who know the truth, people who don't know the truth, but fully believe in the lie, and how you deal with freedom of choice. Not just freedom of religion, but freedom of choice generally in that kind of society. And it lets me take some people who hold hugely objectionable views and show you that they hold them absolutely sincerely, and for, in many cases, the best of reasons. And in this case, in a society where there's never been any diversion between written, recorded history from the day of creation and church doctrine. I mean, that's what I think a lot of people don't realize is the most alien aspect of Safehold, is the fact that there is a seamless fusion between their religious explanation for what's going on and all of their experiential written history.
The testaments of the Adams and Eves.
Exactly. And that's...
Do you have less need for faith?
Well, not really. The thing, okay, what you have less need for is a leap of faith. Okay? Because there's no place to leap. It's all here. It's written. Even people who aren't particularly observant believe.
When you're taught from childhood with the exact writings which have never deviated.
Yeah. So that's what I think some people miss as the most alien single aspect of Safehold. And it creates an interesting foil for the people who are trying to deal with it, and how they approach people who hold those beliefs. And of course, they're limited by the fact that they can't exactly stand up on a rooftop and say, by the way, your entire religion is a lie. Okay, that's the one.
They just get shot off.
Yeah, but that's the one thing they can't do. When
I was going to say, nobody would believe them. Why would you believe somebody that says that when you've got actual evidence to the contrary?
Yeah. Well, and there's also the problem that it would automatically turn you into self-proclaimed heretics, which is the one thing they were always really careful to avoid doing in the course of the war. But yeah, I've enjoyed the Safehold books, and the next one.
Oh yeah.
The next entry in that universe will jump about 25 years from At the Sign of Triumph. And it will begin what you could think of as the final conflict on Safehold between the dogma of the church and the truth.